Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm Linda Joy, your host, publisher of Aspire Magazine, the premier inspirational magazine for women, celebrating 10 years this year. I'm super excited about that because it is my soul project to the world. I'm also the multi-best-selling publisher behind the boutique publishing company, InspiredLivingPublishing.com, which is dedicated to giving visionary female entrepreneurs, coaches, and health practitioners a voice and a high-profile media and publishing platform to share their wisdom, enhance their expert status, and bring their brand out of the shadows. All of my brands, included in this show, are dedicated to inspiring women to live their best lives personally and professionally. I have a question for you. Are you ready to feel more peaceful, live a life full of meaning, have awesome relationships, and step fully into your best self? I think that's what we're all looking for, isn't it, ladies? But so many of us come to a place in our lives where we start to question, who am I? What do I truly need? Am I living authentically? And for so many of us, I was there, so I'm raising my hand with you, we don't know where to turn. We don't know where to begin. It's almost like this pivotal moment has come in our lives, and we're like at a transformational time of decision-making, and we know that the decision we make could forever change the trajectory of our lives. And today I'm talking to Bev Janisch of thecompassionatemind.com, a mindful living coach, speaker, and author. Bev mentors women who are ready to take an inner journey to connect with themselves, gain clarity about who they are, what's important to them, and how to live a life full of passion and peace of mind. Bev empowers women with a proven mindfulness-based system of powerful tools and techniques to transform their lives from the inside out. Bev's 30 years as a compassionate nurse and her current expertise as a certified mindfulness and meditation coach sets the stage for profound transformations. And women who work with Bev are guaranteed to ignite their inner sparkle. Hello, Bev. Welcome.
Hello, Linda Joy. Thanks. I'm so glad to be chatting with you.
Well, I love your energy and vibe, and you and I had a connection from the moment we met, and I love the work you're doing in the world. And I have a lot of respect for the path that you've taken because, 30 years in compassionate care tells me what kind of soul you have, So such a blessing for that aspect of the work you were doing. And now, because of a transformational moment in your life, you are now on a new path and helping women do the same. So take us back to the pivotal moment in your life that led to this transformational work.
Oh, I'm so excited to share that. Well, it was a few years ago, and I had retired from nursing. I had a long and wonderful career in nursing that I was just so passionate about, and it was really a calling for me. And so I had retired from nursing. I knew it was a time to kind of close that chapter in my life, and my husband and I had decided we were going to do all this traveling and explore all these things and all these, exciting opportunities. And so one of the things that we did was we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and that was 4 years ago, and it was my 50th year, and I thought, the perfect challenge. This is what I need. I was kind of starting to feel a bit stuck in my life and feeling like I had so much to be grateful for. I had so many family and friends and a wonderful career and husband and so many things I enjoyed to do, and yet I still felt, okay, there's something missing in my life, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And so I had agreed to do this Mount Kilimanjaro hike with my husband, thinking, okay, well, this is a challenge. I need a challenge in my life. And somehow I had this kind of idea that some of these answers that I had kind of were percolating inside of me around, who I was and what was important and how could I kind of get that inner passion. How could I get that back? So somehow I thought, okay, well, this, I'm going to climb this mountain. Of course, that's where all the answers are, right? And so we did that, and on that climb, I brought two books, audiobooks with me. One was The Power of Now, which is Eckhart Tolle's book, because I knew I had a very busy mind, and I just knew that I have a really hard time just being in the moment and really even knowing what does that mean. And then the second book I brought with me was a Learn to Meditate book, which I had no clue about meditation. Now, both of those books, they came up and down the mountain with me, and it wasn't really the time for me to be kind of really getting into that. And when I got back down and life carried on, I realized, okay, I've climbed this mountain and I've done all these amazing things in my life, and yet I really, as I say, felt that something was missing. And that is when I realized that I really needed to go on more of an inner journey, not a journey to climb a mountain, not a journey to be busier and, get more education and degrees and jobs, but I needed to really get to know myself. I really found that after spending so many years trying to be the good wife and the mother and nurse and friend and sister, and I had kind of lost sight of who am I? Who am I? Who am I at a very deep level? And I realized I had just spent, although I had an amazing, wonderful life, I kind of really kept myself pretty busy. You're so busy raising kids and jobs and families and this and that you never really, at least some of us, don't really stop and take the time to really ask those questions. So that really was pivotal for me. I started with just literally a 5-minute meditation practice, which I was very resistant to do because, I'm busy and I can't do that. And, I was just quite resistant. And that 5 minutes of being with myself every day, it totally changed my life because I began to realize I really didn't even know who I was anymore. And it opened this whole big world of a connection with myself, connection with my spirituality, who I am, what my gifts are, what I need, what's blocking me from having it, some of my beliefs that weren't serving me, some of my anger, resentment from just being the people pleaser all my life. So yeah, that was really pivotal. And of course it wasn't just this exact moment, although now looking back, I realized that was the huge shift that I really began to kind of change direction from having a completely outward focused view on life and where my fulfillment was going to come from to a completely inner focus on life and a realization that my fulfillment and my purpose and who I am, and it needs to come from within, and then share that, with people. So it's been a huge and exciting and scary and challenging and all of that, all wrapped up into one big gift. So that was really kind of the shift when that trip and that climb was the realization that the answers are not out there. The answers are not found anywhere outside. They have to come from within ourselves.
Well, that's such a powerful testimony to the power of slowing down enough to listen. And your story, to me, I can picture you up there. And in a previous conversation, you had shared that when you were up there, it should have felt like the biggest high in life, because that's a major accomplishment that not many people get to experience. But you said deep inside, that's not how you felt.
Mm.
And what a disconnect, right? What a disconnect of sometimes we're living our lives, but we're not present in it. And I could just feel the energy of that awareness that you came to that day. And for myself also is, you kept using the term throughout about living from the inside out. And it's so funny because at Aspire and all the brands that I have, the message over and over again is inspiring women to live from the inside out. And the reason being, the moment I started doing that, it shifted my life. So to hear you so beautifully share your story in such a powerful way is a testimony that slow down, let's listen.
Mm-hmm.
And when we come back from our commercial break, I want to talk about that even more. So we'll be back with Bev Janisch of thecompassionatemind.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a woman's soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Bev Janisch of thecompassionatemind.com. And right before break, we were talking about a pivotal transformational moment in her life when she realized that it was time to go inward. And just saying that out loud and for others to hear it sometimes, it is scary. It's the thought of we spend most of our life so busy running from ourselves that the thought of going inward scares a lot of people, Bev. Is that how it felt to you when you began that 5-minute meditation series? Did stuff come up?
Yeah, it was really scary because, I think as women, we are so aligned and focused, and so much of who we are is about being there and being there for other people, caring about other people, being, wives and mothers and friends and caregivers. And so we find, for us, that seems very comfortable because that is really what we feel we're meant to do, is we're really meant to be there for other people and to care for other people. And those are such important things. Of course they are. I mean, that's what just is the way that we are able to give our gifts. But the problem is that we somehow feel that we are going to fill ourselves up by doing that. And that what often happens is we get drained. And so when we need it, somehow it's almost easier and comfortable to turn our attention outward, even though in the end we end up losing ourselves. We end up getting more unsettled. We feel more uncomfortable in the end, although we don't really understand why. And so to stop and turn our attention inward and to connect with ourselves, and even giving ourselves 5 minutes a day to sit and meditate and be with ourselves. I hear so many women, and myself included, just said, I feel so selfish doing this. I feel like I feel guilty and selfish by focusing on myself. And the last thing I want to be is, self-centered, self-absorbed, selfish. And so I hear this so much from women as well as, of course, in my own life. So taking that first 5 minutes and sitting and connecting with ourselves in silence and whatever that looks like, it is scary because it feels different and it feels uncomfortable. But it's also scary because once we start to really turn that attention inward and get to know ourselves, we see maybe things in ourselves that are not always easy to see. And a lot of us are very afraid, understandably, of change. And then what I found in my own life is I started to see things that ended up creating this ripple that was very, very scary. Like for a while there, because I could see that I had basically lost myself, I didn't know why, but I knew I needed to make some significant changes, and I needed to have almost some space for my husband, for example. We had this home in Phoenix, and that had always been his dream, and I kind of went along with it, but it really wasn't my dream. And yet I never allowed myself to really admit that because I was so busy trying to make it work for everyone else and be there for others. And, I'm flexible. And yet I kept losing myself in terms of this. So turning my attention inward and starting to see what my own needs were and who I was and what I was passionate about and what brought meaning to my life meant I needed to make some changes. And so for a couple of years, I would spend time in Calgary, where our home, and he would spend time there. And it was nothing to do with our marriage. We had a solid marriage, and I had just needed to have some space in order to clear away all these voices in my mind about who is Bev and what does Bev need. And so, yes, even sitting for 5 minutes and taking that time, it opens up some doors. It starts to really open up doors about, who I am, what are my beliefs, what is my voice, what is other people's voice, what do I need, is how I'm living my life in alignment with what I need. And so with that inner journey comes an awareness, and with awareness comes a choice of, okay, maybe I need to make some changes. And we all know that can be really, really scary. So, it really opened up a whole new world. But I also know that in order to get to what we ultimately want, which is to live in alignment with our own truth and who we are and feel inner peace and contentment, combined with that passion for living a life that feels really meaningful, a lot of times we need to go through that period of discomfort in order to achieve what it is we want.
Well, Bev, I find everything you're saying, I just find to be so true, just from my own life experience, but also what I've witnessed in my global community of women who share their stories with me. What I'm hearing, too, is though it's uncomfortable to open that door, right, in meditation, open that door and look at, okay, what is my truth? What needs to change? When you walk through the door and do the work, another door, I found this for myself, another door magically appears after you've done the work. And it starts, I believe it begins leading you to the life you are meant to live, right? Because now you're showing up authentically. And it's exactly how all my brands and everything that I do was born. I just kept doing the inner work and saying, I want to live and serve authentically. I had no idea how that would look. I just kept doing the inner work. And I kept trusting and things unfolded. Now, for you, it all started with that 5-minute meditation practice. Did you ever envision the moment you sat down for that first time, the first 5 minutes, that you would go on to be trained as a meditation teacher?
Oh no. I mean I just love how you describe that. It's so true. How you just start with one small step and one small step in a what feels like maybe a scary or different direction, and you don't even know where it's going to end, and that is just one thing I have come to find just so exciting about all this, of sitting down for 5-minute meditation with myself led to things, one little baby step led to the next, which, it started as I started to feel different inside, as I started to explore meditation, which is really, meditation and mindfulness is kind of confusing for people because there's so much out there right now. But really, it is just really all about really becoming aware and connected with ourselves and becoming intimate with our minds and our hearts and our souls. And so that 5 minutes that just led me in that other little direction, as I started to do it, I started to just know that this is powerful. And what was powerful is just that I can actually be with myself, and I can sit with myself and my feelings and my thoughts, and I got to know myself. And because it's just, the way I am and probably my nursing background, I really wanted to understand more about meditation and mindfulness. So that's why I signed up through the McLean Meditation Institute in Sedona, Arizona for their amazing program. And so that was, several months of practice and study and inner reflection and connection with others, of like-minded people. And I never really intended to do anything with it other than just experience it and learn and understand and have that structure around my own inner journey. And so one thing led to the next, and because it was so powerful in that it was really life transforming and created a whole new way of living, and it opened the doors for many other tools that were very healing, very nourishing, that I took that one little step, committed to 5 minutes, and it totally changed the direction of my entire life, which I didn't know what that was going to be at the time. I just started taking one baby step. And, it's just really powerful. But as I was mentioning earlier, as I started taking those 5 minutes, I started to feel a shift inside of me. I started to feel my inner, it just really started with my inner, I felt more settled inside. I then came to realize so many of us, and so many women I talk to, and and many women listening, and we just have this inner discontent, and we just feel a little frazzled. And, the other day after kind of running around, I sat down, I did my meditation, and I just knew in the moment, this is exactly what this feeling wired feels like. I felt wired. And by the time I had finished my practice, I was calm inside. And this was in, our family has just really gone through a traumatic, in these last few weeks, a really deep loss of a very special nephew of mine. And it's been a very difficult, stressful, emotional, hard time. And, so much emotion, so much loss and sadness. And yet when we have these tools that nourish us, that connect us back, that ground us, at a physiological level, enable us to settle down our nervous system. I started just feeling wired and just like scattered, and like I just, very, the opposite of peaceful inside too. By the end of it, okay, I'm recharged, I'm refreshed. I'm still emotional, I'm still sad, I'm still, it doesn't take those things away. but I can go on. I can go back out. I can support the people that need supporting. So I take, it's like this, my mantra, I love this mantra around one breath for you, one breath for me. This one breath for you,
beautiful.
one breath for me, one breath for you. It comes from Kristen Neff's work through the Self-Compassion Organization. And that's what it's all about. It's when we take a breath for me, I can then give a breath for you, a breath for me, a breath for you. And so when I sit down and I take my breath, doesn't mean the stress and the loss and the sadness that goes on in people's lives and around us doesn't happen. It just means I can take care of myself enough that I can be there fully in an open heart and in a loving way in order to give to others because I've nourished myself. So this, women so often do a breath for you, a breath for you, a breath for you, a breath for you, and they gasp for me. They give and give and give, and then they're gasping for air and so when we give ourselves permission, then we can really show up authentically, lovingly, and we don't get that same feeling of anger and resentment. So I really love the work through the self-compassion work that through, Kristen Neff and what she's doing around that whole concept of self-compassion, around one breath for me, one breath for you. They're beautiful tools. And all of these tools, as I say, it started with 5 minutes that I said I'm going to give to myself.
And everyone, ladies, has 5 minutes to devote them to themselves. And when we come back, Bev, I want to talk about the difference between mindfulness and meditation. So let's clear that up when we come back from break. And we'll be back in a moment with Bev Janisch of thecompassionatemind.com. This is your host, Linda Joy, and you're listening to Inspired Conversations.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Isn't it time for you to listen to your own internal compass, your intuition, rather than listening to all those around you? When you learn how to navigate using your intuition, you'll discover how to hear your soul's whispers so you live a life of purpose, joy, and abundance. Soulwise Living mentor Laura Clark provides women with the empowering tools and support to help them tame their inner critic, calm their emotions, and ground themselves so they can hear, trust, and act upon their inner guidance. If you're ready to awaken your intuition, visit soulwiseliving.com to schedule a complimentary Sacred Soul chat, read Laura's inspiring blog posts, and discover an array of free supportive resources.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, this is Linda Joy. You're listening to Inspired Conversations, and today we're talking about taking the time to be with yourself. And right before break, I was asking Bev about the difference between mindfulness and meditation. And you had mentioned that earlier, that some people don't understand the difference. So let's clear it up so that everyone can understand what it means and how they can incorporate it in their lives.
Sure, Linda Joy. So meditation is really a broad kind of term, and it describes a whole series of different practices and techniques that help us to settle our mind. So all types of meditation help us settle our mind and kind of find that sense of more quiet and more peaceful mind in and amongst all the busyness of our mind. So all of the types of meditation help us to settle our mind. All meditations come from the perspective of a non-judgmental perspective. So everything we do in meditation is non-judgmental, and that everything we do is very, we accept whatever it is that's arising in our practice. We don't say this is good, this is bad, this is right or wrong, this thought, this feeling, this experience. So all meditations come from a non-kind of judgmental perspective. And meditation is also, the majority of types of meditation have usually a certain focus for your meditation, whether that be a mantra, your breath, a candle, some kind of a movement meditation. So meditation is really a series of techniques that achieve, those kind of three things. And then within that, mindfulness is really a kind of a really powerful and popular practice right now, which is about paying attention in a particular way to what is happening in the present moment. So really bringing our awareness into our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations that are happening in our body, and what is happening inside of us, and what is happening around us. So mindfulness is really training our mind to be present, for what is going on in us and around us. And that's such a powerful way to live our lives that most of us really have no idea. So when I'm, teaching meditation and mindfulness, I usually, I will always start with a very basic practice in terms of meditation around training the mind to be able to concentrate and to be able to focus, because you probably have heard the term monkey mind, and our minds are all over the place. So the really first important step is training our mind, just like we train a little puppy, to focus on the present moment, focus on our breath, and we use all different kinds of tools in order for that to happen. And so that kind of forms the foundation of kind of training ourselves to pay attention. And then we can really build on that with all sorts of other kinds of meditation and mindfulness tools, from using meditation and mindfulness and our awareness to learn different, for example, self-compassion practices and how to deal with difficult emotions and how to deal with anger and resentment and powerful forgiveness practices. And so it's a whole series of techniques that really enable us to live more connected, authentic, peaceful, and healthier lives. Meditation and mindfulness is so, at the very fundamental level, is just so powerful for shifting our bodies out of this perpetual state of fight or flight, which is what causes the majority of our diseases, both physical and emotional, mental health issues. So at the fundamental level, meditation, mindfulness shifts us out of fight or flight into rest and digest, which is really the nurturing, healthy, restorative, healing place that we want to live, in terms of our body functioning. So from an emotional, physical, and spiritual perspective, there's really no other tools out there that enable us to really create, the awareness of ourselves and better health, and we're connected. So,
I think you really explained it well to help us understand it, because even I've struggled with understanding the difference. And I was thinking of what you said earlier when you first started with your 5 minutes. I know from previous conversations that you said that the thought of sitting still in a meditation practice, you always said, oh my God, I can't do that, because you were always going 100 miles an hour. And I so resonated with that, because that's how I've always used to look at it. It's like, I can't sit still and do that. What I realize now is, though I don't have a formal meditation practice where I sit down every day, I have dozens of moments of mindfulness throughout the day that's become my meditation practice. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, yes, absolutely.
Like, so all of a sudden I feel, it's something you said earlier that made me realize that. You said that you were wired and frazzled. The moment I feel that energy even entering my body, I know that it's time for me to step away, disconnect, and that means I'm being mindful in that moment of what's happening. So then I can shift it, right? So sometimes you've seen pictures of where I live on the pond. Sometimes I just go, oh, okay, you need to disconnect, and I'll go sit on the patio for a little while. To me, that's a meditation practice. It's just a different version. But I found my tools that help me stay in the moment at all times, and I have to do that throughout the day, as I think all of us have to do with the fast pace of the world.
Oh, I just love that. I love how you even described earlier, or just a couple of seconds ago, about that as soon as you notice you're feeling a certain way, frazzled, wired, or something in your body, that's a sign for you to go and reconnect, with nature, to bring your mind back to the moment, and that's so powerful that you have that realization that, that you need that. And so I think for so many women, though, and I know the way I was before I became more aware, is I would feel all these things, but I just thought that was normal. That's the way I am. I mean, I constantly had headaches, and I constantly just felt like I kind of call this inner hummingbird, right? That to me, I'm like, well, that's just who I am. I didn't really realize that, what? There is something that I can do about that. And I wasn't as aware as you are. I wasn't as aware of the difference between feeling peaceful and feeling wired, because I was pretty much always wired. And I just thought, well, that's just normal. That's who I am. And so I think when you can get to that place, like you described, that you're aware enough and you know yourself well enough, and you are aware of the way it feels in your body when you're feeling uncomfortable and you're feeling resistance, and you know what to do. And I think for a lot of women, I mean, particularly becoming really mindful and aware, mindfulness gives us tools on how to handle and deal with feelings that feel uncomfortable. I mean, I just think one of the biggest epidemics that we have in our, not just women, but in all of us, is we don't know how to handle uncomfortable feelings. We don't, and having gone through this, with our family loss in the last recent weeks, I can see people struggle so much with, how do I deal with this pain? How do I deal with this discomfort? How do I deal with this anger and this sadness and this? And people really don't know how to hold these feelings tenderly, how to allow ourselves to feel them. And so women, and, we just tend to, we get busy. We get busy shopping. We get busy focusing on others and running around and doing this and doing that. And sometimes, it's by choice. Sometimes it's by, virtue of our desire to avoid the uncomfortable feelings. And so mindfulness is such a gift in that when we learn, like you just described beautifully, how when you feel uncomfortable or you're feeling frazzled or something feels out of balance in you, you know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people really don't know. And then feelings that are denied, repressed, ignored, we try and, what we resist persists. When we don't know how to deal with them, that causes all sorts of troubles, in our health, in our relationships, in our inner peace, in our, but it's really interesting and such a huge need for our society and for women to really learn how to deal with our feelings.
It's so true, Bev. And in a moment when we come back, I want to share something with you because I wasn't always this way. So I so resonate with your story of your past, and we'll talk more in a moment when we return with Bev Janisch of thecompassionatemind.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Are you being called to live a bigger life? A life that fills you with passion and purpose? Are you constantly telling yourself that the life you have now should be good enough? Dream Life designer and life coach Karen Spacies is passionate about empowering women to rediscover, reawaken, and realize their life's desires. Karen knows firsthand the blocks and limiting beliefs that may come up when you follow your heart. She went through them herself when she walked away from a 24-year leadership role to follow her passion, live authentically, and create her dream life and business. Today, Karen successfully guides and supports her clients in designing and creating the life they envision. Stop by KarenSpacies.com to schedule a complimentary discovery session and learn how Karen can support you in creating your dream life. KarenSpacies.com.
Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, you're listening to Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy and today's special guest, Bev Janisch. And right before the break, I had shared something about myself that now when I feel overwhelmed, triggered, frazzled, high vibration energy that's, flowing through and you're like, oh, I am able to recognize it immediately. But, Bev, let me tell you a story. You know I live on this pond, right? So I've been with Dana 20 years. He's owned property here for 20 years. We built our dream house that you've seen probably 15 years ago. When I first started seeing Dana, we didn't have this home. We had one on the other end of the pond. And we were driving down this gorgeous, beautiful dirt road, and then the view opens up and you see this beautiful view. And I will never forget, I'm going to cry. I will never forget the moment he looked at me, probably 18 years ago. And I was in my head, I was writing, I was doing everything. I was everywhere but the present moment. And he said, "Babe." And I said, "What?" He goes, "Don't you see this?" And of course I look up and I'm like, "What?" He goes, "This. Every morning we're blessed with a beautiful sunset. Don't you see how the light goes across the trees? Don't you see how today the water is like glass, or tomorrow there's ripples?" Bev, I was so disconnected from my body and my state of mind that I didn't see any of that. For most of my life, I was not present. And so that comment was just such like an internal shift to me. It's like, oh my God, what else am I missing? Am I missing a moment with my child? Am I missing a moment of being present with him? And I began my journey, and it was not easy. It was a very winding journey. And yes, 18 years now, I can recognize and honor myself, but it took me a long time to get here. That's why it's so important that I have conversations like these with women like you who can help others that are where you and I were break through, because we know what's on the other side, right? We know that just that awareness of what you're feeling in the moment is a powerful tool trying to guide you to your highest and best version of yourself. But you have to slow down enough to listen. So that's why I so love and appreciate the work you're doing in the world, because I know how powerful the transformation can be in our lives. So I wanted to share that because I didn't get there easily, right? And just
Linda,
moment by moment.
Yeah, and as you talked and you had tears in your eyes about that, it brought tears to my eyes. I just felt exactly where you've been, and that's exactly where I was. And as you were saying, it also got so emotional for me, because it reminded me of when my children were younger, and my daughter would say to me, "Mom, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. You don't love me. You're not listening to me." And I realized I've always had this. I had this habit, and it was a habit of being lost in thought, of being not knowing how to even live more of my life as it was happening. And she kept saying that to me, and for her that felt like I didn't love her. And that was so heartbreaking to me when I look back and I look at, of course, I've forgiven myself. I did, of course, the best I could. And she's older now and we talk about it. But for her, that lack of presence felt like a lack of love. And when we talked about, this in a recent group of women, we were meditating and talking about this thing, and we all started getting really teary, because it's kind of like, well, so what? You think of meditation as this thing you sit there and, with your legs crossed, and so what? But the so what is, it's not what you do in meditation that matters. It's how it impacts the way you show up in your life. And to think my daughter felt there was times where I didn't love her because I didn't know how to be present. Of course I loved her. And like I say, we've had many long discussions, but those are just powerful things about, how we know when we're in conversation and we're connecting with people. We know when people are connected with us, and we know when their mind is everywhere else. So for women, we like I say, when we had this chat just a week ago, and we all got really teary-eyed because we could really relate to the fact that we genuinely want to be there, and we genuinely want to connect with people at a very deep level. But sometimes we're so busy in our minds, and so it's like we train our minds, like we train. We're kind, and we train, but we need to train ourselves to know how to be more present, both for ourselves and for the people we love.
It's such a beautiful, and I have to say, I can resonate with that story. My daughter's 32. I'm now a grandma. I have the little goddess. She's 4.5. And then my stepson blessed me many years ago, so I also have a 16-year-old grandson. And with my daughter, it was the same experience. I was not fully present. So I believe our children are our best mirror to how we are showing up in our lives, right? Now, of course, when you're not present in your life, you're not seeing the signs from your children because you're not present. But, Bev, you and I get it. Looking back, our children were holding up a mirror saying, you are not really here. You may be saying the words, you may be present in the room, but you are not really here. And so for any woman on the call right now, I want you to sit with that. Are you hearing words from your children, or maybe even your spouse, a sister, a mother, who feels that you're not really fully present in the relationship? There's a sign right there for you to start slowing down and going inward. And, Bev, we just have a few moments left, and I want to be sure to let everyone know to visit thecompassionatemind.com to learn about Bev's Ignite Your Inner Sparkle program. It is powerful. You can also visit the website to get a complimentary 30-minute one-on-one get-acquainted session so you can learn more and connect with Bev personally. And, Bev, I want to thank you for being here, for really explaining and sharing not only a personal experience, but helping us see the power of both mindfulness and meditation in our life so that we can, as you said, ignite our inner sparkle.
Thank you so much. It's been such a joy and pleasure talking with you, Linda Joy. You do so many amazing things for women and so inspiring, and you really just touched me deeply in this time that we spent together.
Well, I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe one conversation has the power to change someone's life. It's happened in my own life. That's why I'm so passionate about the work that I do in the world, because I know that it's one thing that a woman hears in one moment or reads or views in that one moment in time that has a power to shift the trajectory of a life. So thank you for being here, and I want to thank everyone for joining me for the Inspired Conversations show. And I invite you to listen in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for more conversations with visionary women just like Bev, who are here to share their feminine wisdom to support you in living your best life. For even more inspiration, I invite you to claim your free subscription to Aspire magazine, which includes over 40 transformational gifts. You can do that at subscribe-to-aspire.com. And then until next time, choose love, choose joy, and choose happiness.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.